Once again, we're very excited on behalf of Nabi Fry, Fund for Culture, and AGN, which is the Assyrian Global Network. We have the privilege of meeting another Assyrian author. This author's name is Mariam Shapera, and I would like you to introduce her to you and then let her tell us a little bit about herself and the books that she has written. Shena, and welcome, Mariam. How are you today?
Hi, Svetlana. I'm good, thank you. Thank you for having me here.
Yeah, we're very excited to learn more about you and as well as your family, which I believe is what was instigated these books, and then you can tell us more about that later. So please introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about yourself. In particular, I'm interested in knowing more about your family and where you live, etc., so other Assyrians around the world can get to know you as well.
Yes, sure. So my name is Mariam Shapera. So originally I was born in Baghdad in Iraq. I have one brother, he's younger than me. And we immigrated to the United Kingdom when I was 8 years old. And I grew up there for about 20 years. And I went to medical school there. And then my family moved to the United States, to Southern California, San Diego. And then I followed shortly after. I graduated from medical school from the University College of London. And then I applied for residency programs in order to work as a physician in the United States. I had to do a licensing exam and all that. And then I got a training position in Michigan. And then once I was done there, I met my husband also, and we got married. He was also a physician. And we had our first child in Michigan, my daughter, who is now 9 years old. And then when she was 1, we actually moved to San Diego, and we joined with the rest of my family here. And then I had 2 other boys after my daughter. So now my children are 9, my daughter is oldest, and my son, Joseph, he's 7, and then my youngest is 5. And we all live in San Diego.
Oh, lovely. And what is your daughter and your other child's name? So you have your oldest daughter is 9, and her name?
Yes, she's 9, Marla.
Marla, Joseph, and the younger one?
Matthew.
Matthew. Okay, very good. And then you're currently in San Diego. So tell us about, I want to know in particular about these 2 books that you've written. One of them is called Up, Up You Go, Joe. And as we've learned, you have a child by the name of Joe. And I'm going to tell the audience a little bit that I think Joe is the reason behind these books, but I want you to tell us a little bit more about that. And the other one is Joe's Special Gifts. So what actually inspired you, or who inspired you to write these 2 books?
So I've always loved writing books and poems since I was a teenager. But of course, with school getting harder, going into medical school, there was no time for that anymore. And then COVID hit, we all stayed home, and then the creativity kicks in. And just being closer to my kids, I was basically, like most of us, we were practically homeschooling our kids. And my middle son, Joseph, he inspired both books. During the COVID pandemic, I went through a stillbirth with my 4th pregnancy. And at that time, just things changed in my thinking. And I just kind of pushed me to write this book, just something the idea sparked. But Joseph is my muse. He's my inspiration behind it. And so he is diagnosed autistic. So he was diagnosed. We suspected, me and my husband are physicians. We suspected it before he was 2, but he was officially diagnosed age 3. So it was around the time of the pandemic, and kind of it all came together, and I came up with the idea because I saw how passionate he was about his interests. So that sparked the idea, just the event of things that happened, COVID, the stillbirth, and just my autistic son being right there in front of me every day, watching him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I'm sorry to hear about that, and thank you for sharing that and the inspiration that you had for these books. And tell us in particular about the titles. So I'm interested in the titles of the books. So let's start with Up, Up You Go, Joe. Tell us a little bit about the titles and how you chose the illustrator and the illustrations. How did that come about for your books?
Okay, so for my first book, it's basically I saw how passionate a lot of autistic kids and or adults, they have what we call special interests. And in my son, I saw he was particularly interested in music and he loved outer space. He's got so many outer space books, like fiction books. And so that's how the two came together to make that book. That's the theme of the book, space and music. And then I came up with that title because it's about a boy who writes a piece of music and then he wakes up and finds that all his music is gone. It's lost. And so he goes in search for his music. He goes on an adventure. As you can tell, the cover gives the clue. And so the title, I wanted it to be kind of like a title it's short, the kids can read, but also shows some enthusiasm, like go, you can do it kind of thing, determination to find his note. Yeah.
A push, almost a push. You got this. You can do this. Being an educator, I understand that. Yeah. So, and then you, so both the two books have different illustrators. Tell us about your choice in how did you come about in finding that illustrator? Actually, let's start with this one. Let's stick to this one for now. Up you go. And I'll just share a couple of the photos while you're actually talking about that.
Yes. So with my first book, I knew nothing about being a children's book author. And I wanted the book to be released as soon as possible. So I actually went with an independent company that they provided the services for me. So once I wrote the book, they found me an editor, they found me a designer and an illustrator. They have like illustrators and I chose the style I wanted. So that's what I did with my first book. And that's
I see.
Yes. Yeah.
I see. So you didn't actually choose the illustrator. It was chosen among other illustrators.
Sort of. I wasn't as free as with my second book. Yes.
I see. Okay, great. So we've got lots of colors, lots of excitement, lots of musical notes flying around in space, and Joe's out there to find them, and he does collect them all, and he finds them all. So we're very excited for him. So tell us about Joe then. Tell us about his interest in music. How did you discover that he had an interest in music and space?
Okay, so this was very interesting. So my daughter, who was around 5, we decided to start her on piano lessons. And when we had just started taking her to piano lessons, maybe for 2 months, COVID hit. And so we couldn't take her anymore. And my husband plays the piano, nothing professional, the keyboards, nothing professional. But he himself was very interested in music. I have no music, nothing, no interest and not much talent at all. So he started teaching her at home during the time of the pandemic. And since then, actually, we're still teaching her at home. And so from a young age, Joseph was exposed to music in the house. And a lot of autistic kids I've learned over the years are very musically inclined. Even the way they learn language is based on intonation, a lot of it. That's what we found out. Joseph was exposed to the instruments, and he was very interested in when she was doing her lessons with her dad. And then he would even have that musical memory where he would go and then play the same, what he saw, he would play it, the tune. And and we have all types of musical instruments in the house. We have a xylophone. We have maybe 5 keyboards, the toys and the big ones. We have the recorders, the drums he likes. So we're just overall very musical. And now my youngest 2, Matthew's, we just found out that he also loves the keyboard. So I think they got the dad because their dad now is also teaching himself the violin, which is not an easy instrument. So kind of self-teaching. So I think he has that music in him too. And I think Joseph being autistic, he has some of that and also from his dad. Yeah.
Oh, that's wonderful. So you have a whole band going on in the background all the time.
Always. Well, sometimes it gets too much for me. It's like.
And then, and what about the space, the interest in the space? And you said that he enjoys space, which is also part of the story of this book.
Yes. So up until the age of 2, Joseph had no interest in children's books. And that really worried me because my daughter was not like that. And, you're always comparing your kids and you shouldn't do that. But, So at the age of 2, he picked up his first book. And it's actually still his favorite book. And it was about the solar system. And he's always loved that book. He's also a very sensory boy. So what I mean by that is he loves he picks up on certain things, and he loves like the dark, the lights and things like that. But anyway, so it was a solar system book. That was his first favorite book. And then half the books we have in the house are fiction books on outer space. And so that's how his interest started. And then he started to learn to read by himself, going through all these space books too. And also nonfiction, he does through a little bit with his iPad as well.
Yeah. Okay, wonderful. So combining the two likes there. That's great. So then going back to your book, so how did you approach the writing process? How did it all start for you?
So with the two books are very different, the way I approach the writing process. First, I knew nothing about writing a children's book. I just wrote the book, and then I basically just did a lot of searches online. And that's when I found a Canadian publishing company. It's a self-publishing company, so you pay them for their service to provide you with the editor, designer, and the illustrator. And then they usually get that done quickly. In 6 months, the book is done and it's published on Amazon, online, where they sell books. So that's how I approached that first one. But my second book, I actually did it all by myself because, you learn the process, you make author friends, you learn things online, social media. So you do everything by yourself. It takes longer, but I think it was worth it.
Okay, wonderful. So, and then obviously the story is a little different with Joe's Special Gifts. Do you want to talk about this book a little bit?
Yes. So this second book, this is due to be released in 1 week. And it's basically I actually wrote this, or most of the book, I wrote it about the same time as I wrote the first one, but then it kind of stopped. And then I continued it a year later. And it's a rhyming story. And it's also inspired by my son, but more about what he is talented in, what his interests are. And I've also shown there some what we call autistic traits that he shows and that many autistic kids have. So I think a lot of parents will find that they relate to that and that they see that in their children.
Right.
To educate also, other families about autism that don't have autistic family members.
Right. So I could read one page, for example. It says, "My memory is like a store with people, places, games, and things. I read aloud my favorite books, and oh, what joy it brings." So you're talking about Joe's memory, obviously. Yeah, so beautiful. I can see the rhyming is there. I can see the music is back in this book also. And I feel privileged that I have it before it's out. So thank you. Thank you so much for that. My mom says I have super hearing, and we both think that's amazing. I can spot a flying plane from far away the way I'm gazing.
Yes.
Super cute. And then beautiful illustrations once again. So highly recommend if you have children in your home. It not only is good for reading, but it teaches you, like you said, about the traits of other autistic children as well. So that's wonderful. So you approach the writing process as you discussed. What were some of the challenges that you came across? Obviously, in some way, I guess COVID motivated you because you were home with your kids and the homeschooling. There's some motivation there. But what were some of the challenges that you faced while writing the book? And tell us how you overcame those challenges.
One of the challenge with my first book, the challenge I faced was trying to shorten the story. Believe it or not, it's already long. It's at the upper end. I mean, children's books are supposed to be between, they say, 400 to about 1,000 words. And this one is probably 1,000 words. And I was really I wrote it over when the kids were asleep in the evening, I'd write it. It took me a few nights only to write the story. But the challenge was trying to get it shorter and shorter. So that would be the main challenge. And then with the illustrations, like I mentioned, I didn't have much of a choice. I had those few to choose from it because I wanted it to be released at that time. I was kind of more in a rush with my first one. And then obviously with the second one, you kind of get more, you learn more and take your time. Yeah. But yeah, I think that was the main challenge with the first one. Just, I was able to put things down words. It's just trying to shorten it. What do I get rid of? Because, you want to include everything in there.
Yeah, I understand. You've got a limit, 1,000 words, and you want to ensure that you include everything within those 1,000 words, and that's within both, because the books both have the same amount of they're kind of the same size.
Oh yeah.
It's not like a heavy loaded book, and it's very direct and to the point. And on the back, obviously, less like most books, there's a little summary of what the book is about. But I did notice sorry, just bear with me a moment. In this book, Up You Go, Joe. Sorry. I'm sorry. It's Joe's Special Gifts. In the back, you had talked about a little bit more about autism and more about the awareness for other people to be more aware of that. So, and your illustrator was also aware of children with special needs. So tell me a little bit about how Olivia is autistic and struggles with social interaction, the illustrator of this book. So was that a coincidence, or did you pick her intentionally?
This is very interesting, actually. This is a coincidence. So this illustrator, I met her through Instagram, social media. And I loved, after Up You Go Joe came out, was released, I was like following her, she was following me and all this, and I loved her style of illustrations. And I thought, I'm not sure, maybe. But then I started searching for other illustrators, getting resources from other places, and I went back to her and I said to her, okay, let's do this. And she loved the idea. But then after I went with her, she told me about her daughter. So that was definitely a coincidence.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I think she's 1 or 2 years older than Joseph. I think she's but girls present a little bit differently than boys do, and now there's more awareness coming out with the girls, because we always thought autism is more common in boys, but girls present a little bit differently, and they are better at hiding or masking their traits, and they actually don't have the speech delay that the boys present with. But yes, the illustrator, she's a mom to an autistic child, and the editor is also a mom to an autistic child. I found that out later.
Wow, what a coincidence. Wow, that's wonderful. And the illustrator for this, the Joe Special Gifts, is Lorna Humphreys. And she's also lives in the United Kingdom with her partner, her 2 daughters, and her cat. And she says that my eldest daughter, Olivia, is autistic and struggles with social interactions and emotional regulation. And when Mariam asked if I would collaborate with her, I was delighted to have the opportunity to illustrate a book that would mean so much to children like Joe and Olivia, to remind them all of how special and gifted they are. So, so that was at the back of this book that I noticed. I thought that was good for reading. It told me more about you as a person, as an author, your family, and like you said, the illustrator and the editor. So that was a wonderful coincidence. So going back to the questions there, did you draw inspiration from any other particular authors? Was it purely focused on Joe and your experience with Joe?
Well, he was my inspiration, but in terms of the style of the book, especially the first one, because of the nights, how it looks like it's dark and everything. Joseph had a few space books that I just loved the colors of. A few of his fiction space books. One of them is called Me and My Place in Space. It has that navy kind of dark background for the skies. So I love the coloring of that. And I was also inspired by Happy Birthday Moon, which is another, it's a famous children's book on space, which Joseph loves very much. So kind of just that inspiration, the background, dark background. The design size of the book was very similar to like 8.5, 9 inches.
But any particular authors that inspired you?
I like the writing style of Julia Donaldson. She wrote Room on the Broom and also The Gruffalo. They're not space books, but Joseph loves The Gruffalo. It's a rhyming book, and it's very funny. Yes. I'm just so smart, and it was just a favorite in his house. Yeah.
I know. They're favorites in a lot of schools too. A lot of kids love that book. And does he have the little stuffy for it, the little stuffed toy that goes with it? The Gruffalo?
Oh, no.
I've seen it. The kids love it. Okay, so that's great. Thank you. And then what do you hope that other readers can take away from you as an author, as a parent, as a professional in your field, as a physician? There's so much going on in your life. But what do you hope that people take away from reading this book or both of these books?
Well, if you're an author reading the book, obviously, we authors learn from each other. We give tips to each other, especially when it comes to marketing. No one tells you about the marketing side. You got your book, it's ready, you put it on Amazon, and it's like, okay, why is it not selling? What's going on? Marketing is so important for authors, just like with any business, right? You have a product now, and you need to sell it, and you have to do it in a smart way. So if you're approaching an author, there's a few things here and there. There's a big difference between my first book. I did not know much. I've learned so much more since then, just from author friends, from resources, especially on social media. And I have like a course that I have. It's that teaches you something about writing and things like that. I haven't had much time on that recently, but it teaches more about, gives you some tips and things like that if you want to be a serious author. But yeah, that's if you're an author. But honestly, I did this book more as just to raise awareness and acceptance for our autistic individuals. There is so much misinformation out there, and it's getting better, but it takes time and a lot of trying to get it out there to kind of educate parents of autistic kids to relate to the book. Oh yes, I see that with my kid too. Oh yes, and this, and to normalize it, and that it's okay that they are playing like this. It's okay that they are using noise canceling headphones. This kid is using a wheelchair, and this kid may need to sit on the peanut bowl to help him, read his book or something like that. It helps to normalize those accommodations. The way he's playing, he's spinning. That's okay. That's a way some autistic kids like to play. For example, me, when Joseph was first diagnosed, we're both physicians, me and my husband. We know nothing about autism. Medical doctors in general don't know much about autism. And it's only when we became parents that we kind of become experts on our kids. And each autistic kid is very different. When you only know one autistic kid. So that's when we realized it's okay for him. He still loves watching the washing machine. That's okay. And then we build around that. We teach him based on that, spinning the wheels of the like the cart toys, things like that. That's fine. So lining up his cars, that's one way that they play. In the book also, there's a scene where something doesn't go exactly as planned when he's walking with his mom. And that's because the way they're thinking, the process information it's called Gestalt cognitive processing, very like the same thing. And that's just what I think, yeah. When he has to go a different way in the book. So
this one?
Yes, it's that one, yeah.
Yeah. And on this page it says, as long as I know what's to come, I'm comfortable with my routine. But big surprises make me tense. The slightest change can start a scene.
Yes. So the way they're whole thinkers, they don't think like individually. So Joseph is all the kids, they thrive on routine, but autistic kids, and with my son, he loves his routine. So yeah.
And the same routine and the structure, they thrive better on knowing what's happening rather than be surprised by not knowing.
Exactly. Yeah. He is very into, I have to explain to him, we're going to do this next, we're doing this next. When we traveled abroad overseas, it was a little bit too much for him at the beginning, the first 1 or 2 days. But right. I did a lot more explaining for him there than I did here when we were home. And it was fine. As long as I told him we're going here, we're going to do this next, yeah.
Okay, yeah, they need to be prepared. Yes, I understand that. So do you have any other advice, thinking about other Assyrians out there that are watching this program today? What would you say to Assyrians that are thinking about writing a book, whether or not it's about these beautiful books that you have here about your child and the needs that your child has specifically, but just generally writing children's books? Do you have any advice to anyone that may be watching the program right now?
Yes. So I have one piece of advice, and that is get started on it. Get started on writing the book, because that is the hardest part at the beginning. Moms have so many ideas. I think like, I don't know, 90% of the children's book authors are mothers. I mean, the ones I've come across. And we are with our kids all the time. And we just have so many ideas. If you have an idea, write it down and then start, write it down as a story and then go over it. But the hardest part is definitely the first step, which is putting the words on paper, and then actually having it. Because then you think, okay, I've got this. And then I'll come back the next day and I'll start doing some editing and reading over it, which you have to do that because it's like you have a different perspective the next day. And then, of course, asking other people that you know, family, friends, to read over it as well, to see what their opinion is on it. But the beginning, the first step, that's the hardest part. And my husband helped me with that. He pushed me into it. And I actually wrote it. And I left my book for 6 months. And then it was the beginning of the next year in 2021 when he said, just do it, get it published. So he really helped with that, with pushing me to do it.
Yeah, I can see that you actually put him in the front here as supporting me. You put here, dedication for my children, Joseph, Maria, and Matthew, and to my husband for supporting me. So I think support is key, right? It's very important to have that support.
It is. We feel so fragile sometimes. And it was during the COVID pandemic. I had just gone through a stillbirth. We were all not, what was going on at that time. And just as mothers, we're tired. We do so much for our kids and our family. And we just sometimes just need that push because for ourselves, we need to do something. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm sure when you said for ourselves, we need to do something, I'm sure when these books came to fruition, it gave you a lot of joy to see them.
Yes, it did. And as someone else had put it when I was doing an interview before, they said, this is like your other baby, like your fourth child or something. I was like,
yeah. Oh, that's wonderful. Yeah, it really is. It's you're giving birth to a new book that can give life to other people. So that's wonderful. So in saying that, when I was reading the books, I was just thinking and reading because I come across children all day and in my field of work. And I was thinking how wonderful it is to have books that children can relate to, seeing the beautiful colors. Like here's Joe here looking for his musical notes. Look at the beautiful colors here that when a parent is reading that and sharing it with those kids, it must bring them so much joy to see that. I see the kids' faces always light up when I read books to them. So I know, I'm sure. Shooting stars, Joe shouted to himself. He headed in their direction. And as he got closer, he saw a few more of his notes. This is these musical notes. For those that are not aware, one on each of the stars. So if anyone knows musical notes, there they are, 3 of them on those 3 stars. Beautiful. It was fun. It was the kind of book that you just want to say, oh, where are these musical notes going? When is he going to get them? Is he going to get all his musical notes back? So I was almost into anticipation, waiting to see if he was going to get his notes back, because that would be disappointing.
yes.
But
I was reading on it.
Yeah, a little bit there, but I was like, I've got to see. And then obviously Joe's very happy that he got all these musical notes back from space. So just going through those books, Mariam, it was very encouraging to see an Assyrian author write children's books, but specifically making more awareness to children with autism. So you do get to learn a little bit about autism through these books and the special needs and that these children have, but each child is precious in their own way regardless. No doubt you can attest to that, having 3 children.
Yes, that's very well said. Exactly. Yes.
Yeah, so each child is special in their own way, whether they like to line up their cars one way or they like to have noise canceling. We're all unique and we all have our own quirks and behaviors, and that's what makes us who we are.
You're absolutely right. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So I want to say thank you so much for your time. If there's anything you wish to add for people, what about how can we get these books actually? So I'm privileged, obviously, because I have them both here. But if someone wanted a copy of your book, please tell us how they could get a copy of your book or books.
They're available. Well, the first one's available already, but the second one's also out in a week on Amazon.com. Also Target online. So anywhere online, retailers where books are sold. I'm also planning to have some copies in my local Barnes and Nobles, but that probably won't be until the end of the year. But yeah, basically Amazon.com will be the major, and Barnes and Nobles too. Yeah.
Okay, so if they were just to plug in your name, I'm sure the books
Yes.
would come up. Do you have any other books in the works?
Right now, no. I'm actually focusing on doing a lot of advocacy on autism awareness and acceptance. Just learning more about autism, trying to get this book out there as much as I can. So I'm planning by the end of the year probably to kind of do more in-person events, like local events, probably after the summer. Get it into schools, libraries, and do like book fairs and things like that locally. But not right now. I don't.
Okay, but you don't have one thinking or boiling in your brain right now. There's no theme or topic going on at the moment.
I had an idea about something called Gestalt language processing, which is the way autistic children, actually most autistic children, develop language, which is very interesting. And that's what Joseph is, because that was like a big breakthrough for us when we learned about it in terms of his language. And it's sparked a huge progress in his speech. But I probably might collaborate with a speech therapist for that, because I'm not a speech therapist. So that's something I'm thinking maybe to do, just to raise awareness on that, because that's so important for speech and language development for these children.
That's wonderful. I did say the name of the illustrator on that on Joe's Special Gifts, but the illustrator on this one is Senizal. Is that how it's pronounced?
Yes, that's how it is. Yes.
Different, and I wanted to just a couple more comments on the awards or the notations here on these books. This one in particular, it has the reader's favorite 5 stars.
Yes.
Tell us about those the stars on this one. What does that mean?
So basically, I submitted this to a reader's favorite, which is a company that reviews books. And so they gave it a 5 stars for that one, because they give different numbers of stars for the books. And also those special gift, I don't have the sticker on there on your one, but that also got a 5 stars.
On this one?
Yes. I don't think I have it. Do I have a sticker on that one? I'm not sure.
You do have a sticker on it. Oh, yep, they have the same. They have the same sticker on them. Exactly. Yeah. Yes. This one has. They both have the same stickers on. But this one, sorry, Up You Go has another sticker on it. I'm sorry, I cannot read it right now.
The Mom's Choice Award, that one.
Yeah. This one here.
So that's a company that recommends products that they think that moms will find useful. I've actually noticed that product. I actually noticed that label in some other things I've purchased. I'm not sure. So I came across it and I thought, okay, I'll just apply. So I applied for this one for Up You Go for that one, and I got it. So I was like, okay, there's like gold and silver, but that one got the gold. So I was very proud of that one.
Yeah, this one got the gold. You're right. There it is right there. Congratulations.
Thank you.
So we are very honored to have you on AGN. I'm very excited that I got to meet you and read your books and have the opportunity to chat with you about those books and make awareness of you as an Assyrian, as an author, a children's book author, and as well as the awareness of autism. So is there anything else you would like to share with us, Dr. Mariam Shapera?
No, I think that's it. You covered everything very well. And thank you so much for this opportunity to be able to talk about the books. But most importantly, like you said, to have a chance to raise awareness and to spread accurate information on autism, which is becoming, not what we say, should say more prevalent, but more people are getting diagnosed as they are picking up more on the traits now. So hopefully more people get the diagnosis, and not, because when they get older and they're not diagnosed, they may be mislabeled, as lazy or as, things like that. You know what I mean? Like if you don't have the correct diagnosis, you don't get the right therapy on. Exactly. Yeah.
Yes.
No, thank you.
Absolutely. So for parents, if they think they have any signs or signals, the sooner they get professional opinions, better for their child, sooner than later.
Yes.
Yeah. So thank you so much, Dr. Mariam. It was our absolute pleasure, and we wish you all the best with any future endeavors you may have.
Thank you, Svetlana.
Once again, we would like to thank Nabi Fry Fund for Culture and AGN, which is the Assyrian Global Network, for an opportunity for us to meet another fabulous Assyrian author. Thank you very much.